Today on the Journey Mindfulness podcast, I'm joined by a truly remarkable human being whose life story is nothing short of transformational. Heather Taylor is the founder of Get Tailored, a holistic wellness sanctuary and coaching movement rooted in her groundbreaking system, The Five Elements of You. She's also the co host of the upcoming Lemurian Life Expo, which we'll get into. After surviving a devastating accident that left her in a wheelchair for over a decade and enduring three near death experiences, Heather not only healed her body, but reawakened her soul. Her journey from pain to profound purpose now inspires people worldwide to heal, reclaim their power, and live with intention. Heather's work is deeply intuitive, integrative, and rooted in lived wisdom, whether through her School of You, herbal offerings, retreats, or coaching, she empowers people to come home to themselves. It is an absolute honor to welcome Heather Taylor to the show. Heather, welcome.
Hello, hello. I mean, even that just brought me tears. That was beautiful. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm excited to talk to you. I mean, there is so much happening in the world depending on your vantage point and your perspective. And there are people that are doing truly remarkable things, And so part of my show is to highlight, yes, there's craziness, but there's also beautiful things, and you control much more than you realize. And so it's really one of empowerment. And that's really, your story resonates a lot with me. And I would imagine a lot of people because of the just the transformational healing and the profoundness of everything. I mean, your healing journey is extraordinary. Can you walk us through sort of, I don't know if the moment, I'm sure there was a series of moments, but
Yeah, I think there's
like,
still
where do
a
you
serious
start?
romance. I know. I actually, yeah, oh man, I was a single mama and I had two daughters at the time, now five, five kids, three daughters. Um, oh, it was a really interesting time in my life. I had just lost a baby and like about 6 months before, and my body, because I am such a mama, just did not want to let that baby go. So I actually had to go into the hospital and they had to help me with that process. So here I am, I'm in the middle of a divorce, and I just kind of stood outside my house. And I just got on my knees and I said, God, put me on my path. I am done with this pain. Just put me on my path. And I forgot to ask for grace and ease. So 2 weeks later, my daughters and I were driving in Las Vegas to go to a library, and we got hit by a drunk driver when I was paralyzed in a wheelchair. So, I mean, that's it's a lot more than that, but I mean, that's pretty much what happened. And then I went to seven surgeons, neurosurgeons. They wanted to put titanium through my whole body. And I said, no way. And I went to this eighth doctor and he says, you can heal yourself. I was 26 at the time, and he's like, you're healthy. You don't do drugs. Your body's healthy. It's like, there's no reason you can't heal yourself, but don't tell anybody I said it because I'll lose my license.
Oh my
Uh,
gosh.
that's how my journey of healing started.
Ah, I want to know who this
The
person is.
doctor is.
Yeah, no, it's so, it's such a brave thing to say to somebody. And how did you receive that message?
I looked at him and I said, I don't know where to start. And he said, you will figure it out. Just don't do the surgery. And I said, okay. And he's a neurosurgeon, right? And
Mm.
so at the time, my friend, he's a music producer. He actually produces Celine Dion when she was, doing her thing. And he was in Holland at the time producing one of her albums. And he was at dinner, and there was this table of people, and he had overheard their conversation. So he walked over to them and said, I have a friend who was in a car accident. She's in a wheelchair. She's a single mama. She has two little kids that were in the accident as well, and they're going through physical therapy. And I want to know, can you help her? And so one of the guys gets up, goes to his hotel room. He comes back with this burned disc and he says, this is the first DVD ever printed, and it's about to go global. And it was The Secret. It was the guys that created The Secret. So so he comes back from Holland and he comes to see me and he says, look, he goes, I don't know if this is going to help you walk or not, but this is a start. It's about the mind and it's about the emotion. And I watched The Secret. I watched What the Bleep. Everything and anything I could get my hands on to healing. And the funny thing is, not funny, haha, but interesting is that I have been in the healing industry my entire life. My mother got clean, my blood mother, she got clean and sober when I was 8 years old in recovery. So I grew up in like AA and NA and like the whole, you know, building the 12 steps and how to apply that in your life. And so when I was in college, I actually did an entire paper on, Bill W. and what he was trying to accomplish when he died and trying to create that next step, because once you embody something, there's no more integrating. It's just part of you. You're just,
Yeah.
you're in it, right? You don't have to think about it because it is already your embodiment. So
Yeah.
then there's the next step. It's just kind of like enlightenment isn't the end of the road. It's actually the first step into the door, right?
Yeah.
you
No,
know,
yeah, yeah, maybe you can unpack that a little bit, but yeah, like,
I,
I love how you put that.
yeah. So that's kind of what happened. And it took a year and a half to move my big toe, just kind of telling my brain to tell my leg, to tell my foot, to tell my toe. And it was really about connecting the neurotransmitters in my brain back to that side of my body.
Wow.
Once they did that, which now then I was at about 6 years of this. Once I did that, then it became overcoming atrophy because you'd been sitting there stagnant for years. So
Yeah.
atrophy, is very painful. So then became, researching and creating healing. So that is what I did. And I ended up going back to that doctor. And I was like, I want to go to school, but they wouldn't let me go to school without a doctor signing off because I had petit mal seizures from the neuro damage.
Mhm.
And, I had to have a doctor's sign. So I went to him and he says, well, what are you going to school for? And I said, well, I've been doing psychology, family psychology, relationship psychology forever. And that's what I've been going to school for. I was a peer counselor in high school at 14, just kind of part of my journey. And he says, I will not sign the paper unless you agree to become a doctor and fully heal yourself. And I was like, that's a completely different path. That's arts versus science. Like you're asking me to start over. And he said, how do you eat an elephant? And I said, I would never eat an elephant. And he said, one piece at a time, my dear. He's from India. He's a beautiful man. And so I went back to school for pre-med and started to heal myself. And it was amazing. I ended up leaving school after 11 and a half years and took over a wellness center and started bringing in all these different modalities of healing, Eastern, Western, Middle Eastern, Asians, everything that I could find. And when I say Asian, it's really important because, people would think that the Eastern medicine is the same, but it actually isn't. They have very different aspects of bringing in their healing and what herbs they're working with. So I started to do that and people started knocking on my door. I was making medicine for my kids and, my adopted mom, she was like, you have to start a business. And I'm like, Mom, I'm going to school full time. At the time, I hadn't left school yet. So I was like, I'm going to school full time. I was going to 2 colleges at once. I was
Yeah.
doing Sac State for my master's in psychology, and I was doing UCSF for my doctorate in osteopathy. And I lived an hour away from each. So it was like half the week driving an hour this way, half the other.
While
And
healing yourself?
right. And having 5 kids at this point because I had adopted a daughter and then I had 2 more children. And so it was, I had all this stuff happening in my life. And there was an elder that she couldn't keep the wellness center going and needed someone, or 35 employees were going to lose their job. So I made a hard decision, left school, took over the wellness center. And to this day, I ended up flipping it and selling it for a wash. Actually, just wanted to save their jobs. Everybody still works there to this
Wow.
day. It's been years and years. I mean, my youngest daughter is now almost 20. So it was pretty powerful. It was really a testimony to faith and tenacity and not giving up no matter what.
I mean, I'm a mindfulness-based stress reduction teacher, and my mind is like, "Wow, that's super impressive with all of that going on to pull that off." That says a lot about you. That's a lot of strength to get through all that.
It was kinda like a Jesus take the wheel moment.
Yeah,
It's like
like the surrender.
yeah, yeah, and having that, I think a lot of it for me, or actually I feel a lot of it for me is about being able to walk in the mystery. So that's how the 5 elements was really developed, was on that journey of healing. Is at first, it started with the 1, element 1 is all about the mind,
Mhm.
and it's about the fire, and activation and coming into awareness. So once I came into awareness, then it was like, what am I going to do with this awareness? Then I realized, oh, okay, where's my emotion? That's 2. That's about water. It's about discernment, really taking an observational step of what is surrounding me in my life. And how am I being emotionally impacted? And how am I emotionally impacting others? And then the third one, which I was at 3 elements for quite a long time. The third element was physical, earth,
Yeah,
grounding, right? Where's my self worth? Where's my inner value? How am I feeling about myself? Where am I not showing up for me? And how is that being reflected back into my world? Because everything in this world, everything is all inside of us.
I know, and I really want people that are watching to take that point home. That's so important that our outer world is this reflection of what we have going on inside of us.
Seriously, I mean, I tell my kids all the time, I'm like, guys, even the paint, what the paint is made of on the walls, guess what? We have those same ingredients in our body. How are you experiencing your life? What are you choosing? Yes, we have a destiny. Absolutely. And we choose that destiny before we come into this body. But how are we choosing to experience it? That's the deal. We get to choose.
Yeah.
And whatever attachments we have, what is the step to enlightenment? The step to enlightenment is non attachment while still maintaining compassion, understanding, and healthy boundaries.
Mm.
That's what it is. A lot of times people will say, I'm not attached. I don't care. I said, well, if you don't care, then you're attached. Right? Because you're attached to not caring.
Yeah,
Non-attachment isn't one way or the other. It's the balance and understanding of the flow of consciousness and how every response or reaction comes from an effect or a cause.
yeah. So that's the third one is grounding, the
The
earth.
third one's earth. Yeah, the earth element, self-worth. Really, it's really about that value. Like, what's your moral compass? Where are you at? And then the fourth one, I love this one. When I stepped into this one and spirit like whammied me, I was like, oh my gosh, it was like that aha moment. Like I just got a spanking by spirit. And that one is containment. So you take all the 3 steps, right? You take your mind, your awareness, you take your emotion, your discernment, you take your physical, right? Your groundedness, your self-worth, and then you bring it into yourself. A lot of times people think that, spirit, because that's what it is, that the element 4 is air. It's spirit, right? It's the unseen that we feel. We breathe air, yet we can't see it, but we understand it's there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's so important. So containment is that spiritual connection to self, because just as everything 3D is out in the world, so is everything etherical. It's
Mm,
all of it, right? So when you bring it in, this is when you get to do your self-evaluation. This is when you get to practice observation. Observation of the internal self, observation of the external self. So it's a very powerful moment, because when you're in the moment of observation, when you're in that containment of spirit, then you get to be able to sit and say, whoa, okay. When I was looking at the discerning emotional part, I can completely see how I played a role in that. That's where accountability starts to come in.
mm,
And
yeah.
that's where the balance happens, right? Because we can be over accountable, we can be over loving, we can be over anything.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
just,
it's not an easy one to achieve.
until it is.
Hi, I'm James O'Neill, therapist, mindfulness teacher, and founder of Journey Mindfulness. If you're going through anxiety, life transitions, or just feeling called to grow and learn more about higher consciousness, I help people motivated for change reconnect with their true self through mindfulness, hypnosis, and deep transformational work. If this speaks to you, please like, subscribe, share, and or comment, and consider supporting the show with a donation. Your presence here means more than you know. Thank you for being part of the journey. Okay. Say more.
Yes, that's the thing, as I was sitting there like, "Oh my gosh, I get it. I get what my body and what my mind and what my heart is trying to tell me." So in that containment part, it allows a little bit of separation where you're able to observe self. It's like that eagle and the worm, right? The worm is that depth inside, that
Mhm.
small pointed point, and the eagle is the overall view of everything. Once you have that in your awareness, and once you have that understanding, right, then you get to the 5th element. The 5th element is ethereal, right? The 5th element is selection. How am
Mm.
I going to select the next part of my life? Now I have all this awareness. Now I have all this understanding. Now I've brought it into my spiritual self. I love these things. I'm not loving these things. All right, what do I need to select in my life to shift that?
Yeah.
That's the most important part, because this is where the non attachment really comes in. Sometimes selection requires letting people go,
Yeah. Ugh.
and
I
sometimes it's letting people in.
yeah, people have such a hard time with it, right? Like, sometimes yeah, right. I'll be honest, I struggle with that. Like, do I let someone go, or knowing that clearly people will come in, but am I being mean, right, or hurtful to let that person
Mhm.
go, or am I just allowing them to embark on their own path? I'm just removing myself from it, like this separation, or not allowing them to walk and figure out things on their own that we move on and it's okay.
Yeah, I think that sometimes that's the hardest thing, Sometimes we even have to let go of our children. My 27-year-old, and my kids are 27 to 10. My youngest is 10, my grandbaby's 5. And my 27-year-old, when she was 18, I actually kicked her out of the house.
Mm,
And it was so hard. I cried and cried and cried and cried and was just like, I sent her to my mom's, and, it was what was needed because of the things that were happening in her life and the decisions that she was making. And I had to set a boundary. for everything. And it's really interesting is to this day, she thanks me.
Okay. Yeah, no,
To
that's
this
that's
day.
very powerful to share and to that there was this,
Mhm.
catharsis that took place, like, what happened or what unfolded was perhaps the right thing to do.
I loved her so much, and I saw everything she was struggling with, and coming from where I grew up, I grew up in the ghetto. I was on the black market, sold as a kid. Like, I had a really hard childhood,
Mhm.
and I was emancipated at 14. So when I had kids, I was like, they are not going to experience that life. So when I saw her struggling with her own stuff, and she's a horse rider and a trainer, and she's amazing. And I saw her struggling with connecting with people. And I saw her struggling, and if it wasn't a horse, she could connect kind of thing.
Yeah,
And I was getting in the way of it. I was creating karmic entanglement. And
okay.
when you're creating that karmic entanglement, what happens is it's not your lesson. You already learned the lesson, and now you're taking on the lesson of somebody else. And so it creates all of this karmic drama, basically, because it's not your lesson. Your responsibility is to just hold space and get out of the way. And I recognized that when she was about 18, and I was like, she needs to go to Southern California. She needs to dive into her horses. I need to stay in Shasta. This is what's best for her. And it was really hard. But at the same time, that hardness was only my attachment.
Mm. It's so interesting to hear you say that, like, holding space and get out of the way and allow what needs to happen take place. It just that takes a tremendous amount of emotional maturity and a heightened awareness of even being able to, how you just articulated the karmic entanglement to recognize that and then pull yourself out. That's utterly inspiring to hear, and I know that there's gonna be people that listen to this that will resonate with because people find themselves in that situation often, and I don't know if it's
Mhm.
increasingly happening now more with more people maybe awakening or what, but, I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, I feel that right now, what's really interesting about what's going on right now is we're talking about a global shift. I mean, a cosmic shift, a universal shift, right? A timeline shift. So if we think of something in the terms of timelines, really timeline. I was just being guided to share something really kind of funny. We have a Tesla, right? and my husband and I were having this conversation, and he was getting out of the car, and he was like, am I going to go over here? We were charging. He's like, I'm going to go over here to the store. Am I going to go take the dog for a walk, or am I going to get in the car? And he's standing at the door, and I'm looking at the screen, and there's three of him at the door. And he got in the car. He decided to get in the car, and the other two went the other two directions on the screen, on the actual Tesla screen.
Yeah.
So he gets in the car, and I was like, "Babe, were you thinking like of doing three different things?" And he's like, "Yeah, I was gonna go over there to the store. I was gonna go walk the dog, but I just decided to get in the car." I said, literally on the Tesla screen, I watched all three timelines happen. So all three timelines were simultaneously happening. His choice is what determined what this body is going to do. So in alternate timelines are there. This shows an example of that truly we choose how we experience our journey. The journey is the same. The
Yeah.
destiny is the same because that is what we are on, right? That's how our soul is connecting to that pillar of consciousness. However, we get to choose to make a left turn, a right turn, or go forward. And each of those decisions will create a different experience of that same journey. So, like I had a client, I would tell my clients all the time when I was doing one-on-ones, and I would say, look, this is what I'm seeing. I've been an intuitive my whole life since I was 5. And so I was doing a reading, and I said, like, this is what I'm seeing that's coming in your life. But don't hold on to that, because if tomorrow you get up and every day before tomorrow, You make a right turn and tomorrow you decide to make a left turn, you could totally change how you experience this path.
Yeah.
And it isn't about getting caught up in, oh crap, do I go left or right? It's more about recognizing that wherever your soul is aligned, wherever your mind and your emotion is connecting, that's how you're going to experience. So if you're in the flow of the mystery of the unknown and feeling good about yourself and grounded in who you are, everything you're experiencing is the most direct path. If you're not, then you're going to take little detours to learn what you need to learn to get back on that direct path. And that's been my experience of witnessing.
Mm. You just, like, unpacked a lot of wisdom there. So you when you get to this point kind of integrating all the elements, I don't know, it's like a choose your own adventure, right? Like, you're just selecting the experience you want?
Pretty much, except for you're not aware of what you're experiencing, what you're choosing fully, right? You might be aware of like, glad this is my job. This is what I want to do. This is the house I want to have, or this is where I want to live, or this is how many kids I want to have. But a kid could pop up at any time. Your house could change at any time. Your job could change at any time. But you know what is always the same?
Well,
You. You're always the foundation, no
yeah.
matter what. We're always the foundation of ourselves. So I encourage you guys to try something. So this is something I do. It's actually part of the 5 Elements of You course. A few weeks in, it's an 8-week course that I just try this. So I want you to just close your eyes, take a nice, deep, clearing breath in through the nose, really belly breathe, let it go. And I want you to picture who you are right now. Everything that's going on in your life, the kind of clothes you have, what car you have, how many kids you have or don't have. Just picture all of that, all the way down to your name. And now, what I want you to do is let it all go. Your name doesn't matter. Your life, nothing in your life is a part of this moment. All that's there is your soul. Everything else is laying at your feet. Just let it shed away. Even what you look like, what hair color, eye color, everything. Just allow the soul to be present and feel it. Take a deep breath into it. Now, in your moment with your mind just open with consciousness and your eyes closed, I want you to look down at everything that you just shed. And then I want you to feel into what your soul is, just with itself. And now, only pick up the parts that bring you joy. Only pick up the parts that resonate with your soul and feel that. Breathe into that. Now you have choice. You can leave it on the floor and open your eyes and walk away, or you can pick the rest up if you're not ready to let go. But remember this moment. It's your soul. You get to define you.
Yeah.
Is that helpful? Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense, and, there was there's emotion in that exercise, letting go of the things that are unpleasant or, shame or guilt or some of the, negative or lower aspects, and then, making the conscious choice to, um, just in that brief exercise, what came up for me, like, I want love, I want connection, I want joy. Like, those are the parts of life that I want to create more of in my life and share with other people. So it's definitely even though a quick exercise, it definitely
It's
powerful.
like a minute, but I think it's important for us. I really feel it's important for us to understand what's happening. Our souls can only step in as much as our bodies will allow.
Yeah.
So, if we have all these things and we're carrying them around all the time, and let me tell you guys, I am not perfect. I'm the perfect version of me, flaws and all. But I'm not perfect. I also have to remind myself and do these exercises. When I teach my classes, I do the homework with my students. I
Yeah.
share my homework.
It's funny, someone just asked me the other day, "Why should I trust you, like, to work with you?" And the answer that just came out right away was, "I am you."
I do.
I like, I've had my struggles and failures and everything else. I'm just like you. I'm not any better than you.
Right.
Just experienced them.
Yeah, and I think that's probably one of the most powerful, like when with my teachers, well, they find me, but when my teachers come into my life, that's the biggest thing for me is, are they teachable? Because a master teacher is a master student. If they're not teachable, then how can they teach? So if I'm not accountable and really looking at myself and doing that homework with myself, then how can I lead it? I'm not living it unless I'm actually applying it as well.
Yeah. I remember, I think it's The Law of One, that book, where it's just like, we're always toggling between the role of the student and the role of the teacher. And at any moment it can switch.
Oh my gosh. And it does, especially when you have 5 kids.
Oh my god, that's so true. I yeah, I mean, we can laugh about it, right? But I'm sure it blows my mind, right? It's like the beginner's mind in mindfulness, but just like when my kids teach me a hard lesson where I'm like, "You're right. We're right. Yeah. Okay."
Oh, wow. Well, I teach what part of what I teach also is the difference between selfishness, selflessness, and self-fullness.
Mm.
And so, with my kids, I have my 13-year-old son, and I'm always telling him, like, buddy, are you being selfish with your little brother? Are you being selfless or selfish or self-full? Right. So I'm always asking him, like, where are you at with this situation with your little brother? Because he's 10 and he's 13. Right. They're at that shifted age where there's separation. And and he looks at it, but he comes up to me and he puts his hand on my shoulder and his voice is changing. So it's getting kind of deep. So and he puts his hand on, she goes, Ma, are you being selfless, selfish, or self-full? Because I think you're being a little too selfless today. And that was like, did you just turn my homework around on me? He had this big old smile. He's like, I'm just saying.
Kids nowadays,
Oh my
the
God.
the force is strong with them.
Oh my gosh. I'm telling you. Oh, he's so funny. And he's like, he's the cool dude. He skateboards, he surfs, he snowboards, he plays guitar. He's gonna go into aerospace. He's, like, already got his whole life mapped out. At 12, I actually have all my kids write letters to the colleges they wanna go to, and then they have to pick 3, and then
Mhm.
the colleges send them a bunch of info, and it's really powerful because I noticed at the age of 12 to 13, that like a hormonal shift. If they don't have some kind of focus on their future, they'll shift out of their dream. Do you ever realize like you want to be something as a kid and then all of a sudden it kind of changes? It's
Yeah.
that 12 to 13. So all my kids, I've given this homework and he's just like since he was little, he's just been really kind of this is what I want to do, mom.
I am stealing that. That is fantastic. I've definitely seen a shift in my son. He's 14 now. But yeah, like
Mhm.
the shift in, well, maybe I'm not gonna do this. And it's like, you're thinking about it, right? Or someone told you that this isn't maybe gonna work out. Like you do that innocence, but That's fantastic.
Mhm.
Exercise.
Yeah, and a lot of times, teachers will come in and they'll say, maybe that's unrealistic in their hemisphere or their thought pattern. And so for me, I want my kids to I want them to they can write even my clients, I'm like, "Man, I want you to write down a list of things you wanna do. I don't care if it's Heather, I wanna become a fairy and grow some freaking wings." Because in that homework, there's layers in there that has a magic, that has an innocence, that has this part that we need to remember. And so the homework isn't so much about how that end result's gonna be, it's more about what it is you wanna experience. And then how do we navigate having that experience in a way that's actually feasible for that person?
Yeah.
And I think that's really powerful. So I've done it with all my kids. It's crazy. All of them are in the careers that they chose when they were 12, or they're in college towards that career, you know, except for my 19-year-old. And I kind of already knew she was going to kind of shift a little, but she's still in the same field, just a different part of that field. So it's very interesting.
It is interesting. You just brought up in hypnosis when I'm working with my clients, I'll bring them back to childhood to get to that state where when you were that, a younger version of you, what did you want to be? Like what gave you joy? What were you excited about? And that to kind of get to the answer of that, because you get away from it.
Yeah, and that's, like, one thing. When I had a whole conversation with Ganesha. Ganesha is a big part of my world, and when I was sitting in this temple of one of my teachers, and I was sitting with this Ganesha, and, it was after I died and came back the last time, and I had basically been asked, "You can stay or go." So when that happened, I chose to stay. At the time, my 10-year-old was 2, and I was like, "Oh, I have 5 kids. I just got out of the wheelchair. You're crazy. I'm not leaving."
Sorry, this is a near death experience.
Yes, from 2017. I had an
Okay.
allergy and was in ICU for 11 days and had this the allergy specialist was actually on vacation, so nobody knew how to help me, and they just kept giving me epinephrine. That's all they could do, and my heart couldn't take the epinephrine shots after a while, and I ended up having a heart attack and dying, and twice. But, what was really powerful was the guidance I was being given in those experiences. The first time that I died as an adult, I died a few times as a child. But the first time as an adult, I was actually giving birth to my second daughter.
Mm,
And that was quite a different experience. I was sitting in a tunnel and the voice came in and said, when the darkness is gone, you'll be back in your body. All the babies in that hospital died that night. There were a lot of babies died in the town. It was one of the coldest winters. Elderlies were dying. And my daughter was the only baby that survived. That building is actually a government building now. It's not
mm,
even a hospital anymore. So that experience was completely different. I didn't have a choice, right? This time it was like, hey, your karma's done here. Do you want to stay or do you want to go? Was
mhm,
kind of pretty much that. And so I was like, I'll stay, but this is what I need. I need these things to stay so that I can accomplish what is being asked, what you're asking me to make an agreement to accomplish. I need some support too. And so I'm sitting at Ganesha and this is like a year later. It took me about a year to heal from that. And so I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, Ganesha, like I'm having this moment of like, here's where I'm at. There was 4 things I'd asked for. I said, I don't ever want to be homeless again because I'd been homeless in the wheelchair and I'd been homeless with my kids and I didn't want to go through that again. I said, I want my kids to always be taken care of and supported fully because if I'm worried about that, I can't do my work. And I said, I want to be guided where I'm supported on the journey you're asking me to do because it's a we ship, not an I ship, right?
mhm.
And the fourth most important thing of everything, my heart. to maintain the purity and innocence and grace and love in my heart, because my heart is what allows me to be where I am. That is the most sacred of sacred, is where my love is. I am a big ball of love and I love it. And I'm not willing to trade that. And it is pretty powerful. And that brings us back to the innocence. If you can remember that moment as a child when you smelled a flower and it felt so magical, or you got a honeysuckle and you're like, oh my gosh, you can taste the honeysuckle in the back of the flower, which I just did with my grandbaby the other day. I was like, baby, do you know that there's honey in this? And it's like, because I'm able to maintain that in myself, I can give it to my granddaughter. I can
Yeah,
give it to the people I meet, right?
your heart's overflowing. There's a generosity and outpour there that's available.
Yeah, and then you're bringing magic because the butterflies were all over. I've been having a bee thing lately. Bees have been around me so much. I'm like talking to the bees because I love the bees. And then my grandbaby, she's all, Gamma, it's like the bee movie. It is kind of like the bee movie, baby. So that's what I'm talking about. Coming back to that innocence. I feel like we spend so much time when we're adults focusing on responsibility or running from it or trying to figure out how to cope in it that we forget that the joy is in our innocence.
Yeah, there's a lot of people in, fight or flight when we're just trying to survive, and it's hard to well, maybe it's not as hard as we think, but it's available to us if we look for it.
Yeah. And I think that's the big thing too. Like Lemurian Life Expo, you were mentioning that. And
Yeah.
it's such a beautiful event. Last year was really about remembering, teaching people how to remember our ancestors and the things that have been erased. And I'm a world traveler. As soon as I got out of the wheelchair, every 2 weeks, my kids were with their dad. I was in another country for 2 weeks. And I was doing this research. I was finding my history, my legacy, who I am. And what's really powerful about Lemurian Life Expo is it's really about remembering what was left behind. It's about the indigenous, it's about the spiritual, it's about recognizing that there's so much more than what we're filling ourselves with every day in society. And it takes us right back to innocence because the more we can come into our innocence, the more open we can be to those aspects of consciousness.
Could you please give us a little background on the history of Lemuria and, like, the Lemurian Life Expo and how that for some people, I sometimes I say Lemuria and they look at me like, "What are you talking about?"
That makes sense, that makes sense. I guess in the 3D, in the world of now, the best way I could explain, Lemurians would be Polynesians, Native Americans. They really hold a lot of that indigenous, memory. And, their memory and things were shifted as well, just because of what happened in the wartime in the past and things like that. However, Lemuria was a time of unity. It was a time of community. It was a time of connection where there wasn't this, no, that's not it, or that's not real, or I don't believe that, or you can believe that, and all these triggery things. Now you get a lot of trigger because there's an attachment. If I'm open to believing this, what does that say for my moral fundamentals now? And the truth is nothing. It says what you want it to say because you get to choose your world, right?
Yeah.
And that's what Lemuria was really about. It was about not having war. I mean, there were warriors, there were Lemurian warriors, but they were peacekeepers. They were there to hold space. And the Atlanteans were really about technology and they were one. There's one community. And what ended up happening is that the Atlanteans, which in the history books, and you can research it, is called the Alacretians. And the Alacretians actually went and they started teaching the Greeks and the Romans, which what runs everything now, right? The Roman Greek history. So what ended up happening is they had a really, really big idea of utilizing the power sources they were using, crystals, which is funny because that's what we use today still is crystal power, right? Everything, your phone, your every computer chip is actually made from a crucible singing bowl.
I was
They're
gonna say
grown.
singing bowls.
Yeah, they're grown in the singing bowls, right? Which we have a company called Divine Bowls, and they are the original bowl makers. They started making these bowls in 1975, and they made them for the semiconductor industry to grow computer chips. They still do today. And in the 80s, they realized it made sound. So they ended up connecting with some distribution companies, some different crystal bowl singing distribution companies, and they started sending it to these companies to sell to the public because they were scientists. They were like, we're going to make it for semiconductor. These companies can distribute it out to the world for chord singing bowls. And then 25 years later, they came to my husband and I and said, hey, what can we do next? We want to evolve it. So now Divine Bowls was born and they put medicine in the bowls. So right now I'm working with the vitamin D guru. He has the best and cleanest vitamin D in the world. He's a beautiful pharmacist from India. And we are making a vitamin D bowl, calcium bowl, and a trace mineral bowl,
Mm,
and a trace minerals bowl for the healing Western medicine healing industry. So it's really beautiful. And the bowls, I love that you mentioned it because let me go back into Lemuria.
yeah,
Right? Now I have a little history about the bowl's growth in our timeline. In Lemuria, sound, bells, bowls, all of that was a frequency that was connecting externally out and bringing it into the body. See, people weren't getting sick because they didn't have the consciousness around them about sickness. Their physical bodies were in alignment with their emotional and mental selves. Everything was finding that alignment because it was already living it. There was nothing to find, you see?
yeah.
And what's happened is the Tartarians, which I'm sure maybe some of your people talk about, know about.
I don't talk about it as much as, but yeah, go ahead. I'm familiar with it.
Right. So the Tartarians, which is very interesting. So me and Ruben, we were talking, and I was like, I'm going to go research this because I travel so much. There's a lot of left remains in history of beautiful, this beautiful community. And one of the things was until I think it was about the early 1900s, they started removing all the bells. There were bells
Yeah,
everywhere.
yeah.
Everywhere. There's actually a ginormous bell in Cleveland, Ohio, that has a whole sign on it and talks about the history. There's a hotel there that used to be a Tartarian home, and they still have the paintings of these really tall people with our-sized people.
Mhm.
And Lemurians are known for their height, 7, 8 feet tall. They're these beautiful, tall people. So, what the story goes is that as the times were changing and the world was being taught different memories and things were being taken down, the Lemurians went into the earth, like Mount Shasta. And the thing is, in Mount Shasta is a very interesting place.
So I've heard.
It is 5 volcanoes in one. The volcano is over 500,000 years old, and it actually has 2 volcanoes running this way, and then it has 3 peaked. So on the Shasta side, you have one terrain. On the McCloud side, which is where you're going to see most of your sightings of Lemurians, Sasquatches, aliens, things like that, is McCloud because it's the least touched by human.
Okay.
And that side is a completely different terrain. And then if you come up on this side, which this is where you're going to have a lot of military experiences. And that is Shastina and Klamath side. And it's a completely different terrain. like barely any trees. It's mostly lava rock. There's a lot of history there with a native tribe, a local indigenous tribe, and a native man named Stronghold who actually held his family and his community safe for like almost a year in the lava beds. There's a whole story about it in Shasta. So what's
Mm.
powerful is that the Lemurians, they call it Telos, live in part of that mountain.
It's the
And
Telos civilization.
yeah, and the story goes, which again, being a traveler and an educated, like someone that's always about educating myself. When I was in college, I minored in geology and we were going through land and they were showing us how there was actually a bridge of land to an island from where Mount Shasta is, where the land connects there, right? So it's like 3 hours out where the ocean is to another piece of land that the geologists believe is now Hawaii. And
Okay.
that the tectonic plates had shifted and pushed it away. And that was when they talk about the Great Flood,
Okay.
which is very interesting because geology teachers and professors are not going to be talking to you about Lemuria. So they're just talking about land and what's happened. And so here I am in this class and I'm thinking, wow, that really matches up to the Telosian story.
Interesting. Yeah, connecting the dots.
Yes. And people want to see it to believe it. But really, it's about believing it to see it.
It's well,
Well,
Rubens talks about this, but once you see a UFO or a Sasquatch or something, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube.
only.
It's it's happened.
Yeah, I took my mom, my adopted mom, I took her out to Glass Mountain. And it's a very long, like, it's not long, it's like an hour and a half drive, but it's desolate. Like you can go literally days without seeing cars on roads that you're on.
Yeah.
And we were driving back and it was just dusk. And we look over and there's literally a Sasquatch petting a deer. And my mom is like, she loves me. She's definitely a pusher and a supporter in my journey. Um, However, she's like, good old preacher's daughter, Christian girl, so she's been really opened her mind to see the connection of how God is in everything.
Yeah.
And she goes, is that what we're really seeing right now? She just had this moment. It changed her whole life.
Oh my gosh. I I think it was I don't know if it was last year. Willow Shire was talking about how he, he was at the event and the Sasquatches were like protecting him or helping him during some difficult moments for him from the aliens and the other things that were going on just beyond, his wherever bungalow that he was staying at. And I'm just like, this is the most wildest place. Like, where else would you want to be right now?
Right. Right. And then I know where he stayed. And that is a very interesting piece of land that my friend owns.
Mm,
So where he stayed is where it's at on the grid is really kind of unique because it's perfect. It's perfect alignment to Mount Eddy and Mount Shasta. So like either way you look, you're going to get two parts. You're going to get one of those parts, and then it's this open meadow. And when he took the property over, we started cutting um, labyrinths through the manzanitas. So there's all kinds of labyrinths all around that area with manzanita. And then there's a medicine wheel labyrinth in the center, like
mm,
right by the house, and you walk it in prayer. So it's where he stayed was it's a very sacred little piece of land.
wow. So you are co-hosting this event, and
Mm.
you are leading a workshop. Why don't you tell us what you are going to be doing?
So I was sharing about last year was about remembering, bringing in the remembering, and everybody has their own feelings about what it was, and nobody's wrong. of one person saying, this is what I remembered, and this person saying, this is what I remembered, and they're each other's polarity. That's beautiful because we're all each experiencing our own aspect of consciousness. And what happens after that is bringing it together, bridging humanity. So this year is about the return of the ancestors. Last year was really about cosmic and galactic and really connecting out and really understanding what Lemuria is and what it's like and about to live a life of love and compassion and non-attachment, right? And how to just understand it. Last year was about remembering and understanding what's true for you. This year is about bridging. It's about bridging the sound bowls, right? Those bowls are going to connect to those galactic frequencies, are going to connect to other layers of consciousness and other timelines. For the indigenous Mexica dancers, they're going to be embodying the drum and really grounding it in with their fire dance this year and bringing in the great grandmother Mayan medicine woman who's beautiful. She has 1,000-year-old staff. She's almost 90 and she still travels the world with that staff and teaches. And so
Mm,
she looks like she's 50. I'm what are you doing?
yeah.
She's amazing and definitely one of my teachers. So she's coming and she's going to be doing her Mayan ceremony. So we have this beautiful Aztec Mayan ceremony happening throughout the event. On 8/8, we're also going to be doing an event that all the proceeds of it goes to our kids at the college because our theater kids, they don't get funding. There's limited funding, so they're the last to be allocated to. So this year I was like, you know what? These kids aren't getting paid. They're working from morning to night with my team and everybody else. And we need to give back. And this year's about coming together. So we're going to do a beautiful 8/8 activation where we have all the presenters up there that feel guided to come. Like Jamie's definitely going to be there. It was, oh, I just want to squeeze her. I love her so much.
It's Jamie Price.
Oh yes, Jamie Price. She's amazing. They're all amazing.
I
I
mean,
feel
you
like
have it's a who's who of the best channelers and humans coming together. It's quite impressive.
it's very heart centered, and I love that. I'm just like, I just want to have a hug fest. And Rob, oh my gosh, I can't not hug that guy. Even when I text him, I'm like, I feel like I'm hugging you right now.
I've never met Rob aside from just talking on the chats and whatnot, but just like you, just an overflow of love.
He is a love bug. I love him. And his channel is really has really good comedy, but very straightforward. And I love that very much. So
We're
yeah,
talking about Rob Gauthier, who I does he go by the ET Whisperer? Is that his nickname?
I think yes, I guess it is his nickname. I mean, I've only ever called him Rob, but
Yeah,
yeah,
I know, not something we would ever say, but uh,
yeah, he's amazing. So yes, on 8/8, we're all gonna come together on the base of the mountain and do a ceremony really welcoming Lionsgate because Lionsgate is about transformation. It's about connection. It's about coming together. It's about remembering. And Lemuria, that's what Lemuria was about. Lemuria was about non-judgment, non-attachment, and complete love and community. And for me, for my workshop, I'm going to be teaching the 5 elements of you. I think it's really, really important for people right now with everything that's happening and changing in the world is to understand how to understand themselves, how to understand what's happening in their bodies, how to understand how they're choosing the world that they're walking in, and how to apply their own steps of themselves to shift that in the ways that bring them joy. Because here's the thing when we're teaching or learning or both, it isn't about somebody doing it my way. It's about being able to have the space to show them the example so that they can do it their way.
yeah,
And that's the biggest thing. It's like my coursework isn't about, hey, this is how you need to do it. That is
this is the
not what it
the prescription, and this you have to follow this, and
I don't do that.
Yeah.
And it's really funny because I give a lot of homework because I have a lot of students and the homework is for each student. And it's hilarious because they'll message me and be like, I can't do all the homework. And I'm like, just do what you feel guided. Pick one thing you're resisting and pick the things you're excited about. And then they're like, oh, okay. Because the one thing they're resisting is something inside themselves that they don't want to look at or they don't know how to, or maybe it's a little intimidating, but that's the point of class. It's fun, it's safe, and it's a place to explore your inner resistance. And then the joyful parts is what creates the drive around the inner resistance.
Yeah. Now, which it's funny, in talking with Ruben about all of these wonderful, fantastic things, it really is coming back. Like it's this event, I think, is symbolic of really the philosophy of coming back to the heart and integrating this in our lives and being a part of a better world and this transformation that's taking place. Like we don't have to get sucked into sort of the negative aspects that are being projected onto us or that we see that are happening around us, but that we do have power. We're not powerless.
Yeah, it's about empowerment, right? And that's how I feel. It's like, a lot of times for me personally, I struggled with the word power for a long time. I was just like, oh, I don't want to have power over things. But I do want to feel empowered inside of myself. And so then I started to realize it was like my own mind playing with words. That one, it was like
Yeah.
having these little attachments to like, what does that word mean?
Yeah.
And finding that imbalance in myself. So once I let go of that, I was able to I was like, wow, yeah, it is okay to be powerful. It is okay to be in our power. And it's just really about how are we stepping into that? Are we paying attention to how we're impacting other people on our journey? And are we paying attention to how we're impacting ourselves? That's what this year's Lemurian Life Expo is about. It's about coming together, learning from each other. And one of the biggest things, a lot of the presenters, when I started to share, like, this is what I'm getting a download of what this is this year, they were like, Heather, this is what we need to do. We need to do this because so many times it's about getting out, getting out, getting out. And the thing is we're already out. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. It's about being able to integrate into embodiment so that we can experience. So bringing the indigenous with the Lemurian, that's a bridge. That's
Yeah.
a link. And the indigenous need to heal too. Everywhere that they are accelerating and amazing that we need to learn is everywhere that the polarity to that is everything that they need to learn from others, like this humility part. A lot of my indigenous family are, you know, humble, humble, humble to the point of pain. And it's like, no, you guys, yes, it's important to be humble, of course. And it's important to be honorable, but not to the point where it's on the other extreme, because then ultimately we're doing the same thing in reverse.
Yes. Another valuable lesson. You are an amazing teacher.
An amazing student. I'll accept that.
Okay. You're too humble. No. Um, where can people go to learn about so you were talking about the Lionsgate, 8/8, August 8th. The Lemurian Life Expo is what, I think starting August 7th to the
We
11th?
yeah. Yes, we begin on the 7th. That is I love that's my favorite. It's the opening ceremony. So it's really amazing. All of the channelers and everybody comes in. It's, just a few hours long, but it's an introduction. So you get to, instead of just experiencing the 3D human, you get to experience their channel and their gifts and what they're bringing. So they come in channeled state for just a few minutes and introduce themselves and talk about what they're going to bring to this event. And then we have a main event, which is all in the main stage in the theater. the first, what is it, 8-8 and 8-9. And then 8-10 and 8-11 are the workshops. And so that is just, oh, it's so fun. It's so funny because I didn't do a workshop last year.
Okay.
Building and running around and stuff. And I was, doing different things. So this year, Ruben was like, you should do a workshop. And I was like, where do I put it? Because I want to see everybody. I want to go into their workshops.
Yeah.
And we have Karen Jones coming this year. She's a beautiful jazz singer. She was professional jazz singer globally for a very long time.
Is she channeling now too?
She is channeling now.
Okay, I think I just became acquainted with her. Okay.
Yeah, so my husband and I were found ourselves in Vegas after we did the Oscars event. And I was like, honey, we need to go and see who's doing sound baths in Vegas because, we're doing the divine bowls and we're introducing it to the world with all this medicine. And we go to her sound bath, and oh my gosh, James, I'm telling you, we are in sound baths all the time. We're teaching sound baths, we're experiencing people's sound baths. This is part of our day job, right? This is our day
Yeah.
job. So we go in, and I was looking at my husband, and he's like the bowls. My husband is definitely like the singing bowls, right? So we go in there, and I was like, did you experience what I experienced? It was so amazing. We just journeyed it, and it was powerful, and the way she brings you back into your body and just how she is. So then we had to come back for a business meeting, and I was like, let's book another sound bath.
Yeah.
We did, and it was just as amazing and just as in alignment with exactly the medicine that we needed without even asking for it or knowing it, just showing up in that mystery phase. And so I said, you need to come to this event because people need to feel your medicine.
Yeah, I mean, I heard her channel. She just has tremendous you can sense someone's energy, and she definitely brought it, so that's awesome.
Yeah. She's living it. That's the key. When we're living this and we're not, it's like this isn't a clock in, clock out situation. People ask all the time, like, when do you turn off intuition? It's like, I don't. I
Yeah.
show up every day. Some days spirit says put on red underwear, and sometimes spirit says wear blue jeans, and I literally, that's how I live my life.
Mm.
And Karen Jones is the same in her way.
Well, you have quite a collection of wonderful human beings coming up to Mount Shasta. What's it like to live there?
Uh,
That's a
Well,
loaded question, maybe, I don't
well, it is and it isn't. I mean, I absolutely love Shasta. It's very powerful. A lot of people say it's this chakra or that chakra. And I feel like all the answers are true. For me personally, the very first time I was in Shasta, it started at my root and I really worked out the root. And then I came back. I kept coming back. I was going like 19 times a year. That's how I ended up moving there. So I noticed it was working through my chakras of whatever was needed. So whatever I needed to face or I needed to inner work, was like, wow, I don't really feel like the mountain is one chakra worker. You know what I mean? I feel like it's more about really unearthing what needs to be unearthed to make space for more of your soul to step in, which we
Word,
talked about
word.
earlier.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And what I do notice is like I can usually tell, like people come and say, oh, I'm moving to Shasta. I can usually tell if they're gonna stay or leave based on where they're at in their world. Um,
Interesting.
it's really kind of weird. And it's more like the mountain decides. And then some things will come in for a little bit, even businesses, they'll come in for a little bit, and then the mountain just like, and they,
Churn
they
them
go.
out.
It's crazy. It's like riding a wave. It's very interesting. And I have a shop in Shasta. It has a 10-foot tall tree inside of it
Okay.
that was built for me. And
What kind of
it's
okay.
made it's made of cement.
Okay. I'm like, what kind of trees? It's
It well, it's, sequoia on the base, and then oak on the top, and then the branches are maple.
is this the, what's in the shop? This is the singing bowls or
So, my shop, well, it's not even mine. The shop that I steward, it is, I mean, physically I own it, but it's spirit shop.
okay,
I didn't even know what it was gonna be as I was building it. It's one of the oldest buildings in Mount Shasta. It was built in 1889,
okay,
and it definitely has its own mind, its own heart.
gotcha.
Um, but at the front part on the right is a museum of artifacts that have randomly been gifted to me or I have received on my world travels. And the people, just wants to be seen. And then there's the tree, and my dad, who was the chief medicine man of the Lakota people, he passed away. And we had a bear heart from a local bear that had passed that we all knew. And I was carrying it for a year in prayer is what we do. We carry it for a year in prayer, and then we bring it to Sundance in South Dakota. And my pop passed. So I'm like holding this heart and received some really powerful information through a stranger. He channeled through a stranger on a Zoom call. And she'd never had anybody channel through her. She's an astrologer I was interviewing. And and I had been praying like, "Okay, Bob, give me a message. Like, what do you want me to do with this bear heart? We're nearing Sundance and you're gone." And he came through her and gave me instruction. So the bear heart is actually in a glass jar in the box in the tree.
Okay,
So it's inside the tree. And the Mexica community, I ended up being gifted a obsidian glass skull that has the etchings of the Mexica story. And my father is the reason I know the Mexicas. And so the skull is on top of the box inside the tree. Everything else around the tree came from people who lost loved ones and wanted to leave them remembering and pray. And it organically started on its own. I had paper up in my windows. Nobody knew what my shop was. People were knocking on the door while I was building the shop saying, I have to put this at your tree. I hadn't even painted it yet. So that's one part. The rest of the shop is in the back is an apothecary. I have over 660 herbs and over 300 oils and flowers and different things. And then we have the rest of the shop, this is my little kid is coming out, a feature store. So I feature other people's creations
ah,
because it's a we ship. So we have a whole section for the bowls. So there's like a whole bowl section, but it's really about people and community and diversity. I work with so many different kinds of clients. I've got lawyers, people, heirs to countries, all the way down to at-home mamas, whole families,
yeah,
musicians, electricians. So I thought the shop needs to reflect humanity and its diversity. So it does.
that's really beautiful, and I've got to get out there and check it out. That sounds, incredible.
Yeah, come hug a tree.
I it's not above me to hug a tree.
It's definitely not about me. I got trees tattooed all over me.
Just kinda look around and see who's around first, but that's okay.
Oh, that's funny. Okay, when I see you in person, I'm gonna take a little picture of you.
Oh my gosh, it sounds like there's so many wonderful things to check out there, and
Mm.
the obsidian skull, like, it just sounds incredible. Is there an image online of that at all, or
No, there's a small chance there might be on the video to my shop. There's like a video on the website in the
okay.
gallery. But normally the indigenous, they're not big on
Yeah,
photo.
yeah,
So, and I am part Native American and part Egyptian and then part Druid. And so I really want to honor part of my ancestry in that space. So we don't take pictures of everything.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it makes total sense.
Even Elizabeth, her workshop, she's the great grandmother medicine Mayan woman. She actually asked to not be filmed during her workshop. So that's the only workshop at this point that you can't get a playback on.
Okay.
or the Lemurian Life Expo.
Yeah, so there's multiple ways to attend, right? So
Yes, Lemurian Life Expo this year is Return of the Ancestors. So it's about bridging our communities of differences and seeing how beautiful it comes together. And that event is from August 7th through 11th. And we are going to have everything in two options. You can do the online with playback. So anything in the main stage event will be live streamed. Anything that's in the workshop rooms will have playback videos that we will post on the website in your portal. And then you can come in person and experience the beautiful vendors that are going to be there. We have some really great people that are coming in to bring their medicine. All of our presenters have their own tables and they'll be more accessible in person. So if there's someone specific you want to just come to their vending table and spend a little time with, Lisa Royale or her amazing husband, Ron, they're amazing. So there's so much, you guys. I really encourage you at minimum to go on the website and start watching the videos. You know, the videos that are on there, that's medicine. It's beautiful medicine, and sometimes that's just the medicine we need in that moment.
well, please check it out. And Heather, thank you so much. This is a really beautiful conversation to have with you. Your story is amazing, and what you're doing is just, um, it's very inspiring.
Thank you. What you're doing is inspiring. I have to tell you, when Ruben brought us together and we were talking on the signal, I was feeling, yeah, I could feel the energy through message. And I was like, oh my gosh, this guy is so heart centered and he's just really, really living his path. And I just very much an honor to witness that. So thank you so much.
Well, I have so many more questions and want to know so much more about you. It's inspiring, and thank you so much for the compliment. It means a lot.
Yeah, I can't wait to meet you in person.
Yeah. So if today's conversation moved you, please visit gettailored.love to explore Heather's offerings, courses, and community. And don't forget to subscribe, share the episode, and leave us a comment or review. And I will also post links to the Lemurian Life Expo and all the goodies there. So, again, Heather, thank you for being here and sharing your message.
Yes, and one more thing, guys. If you're watching this show today and you're interested in Lemurian Life Expo, type in under the promo code section Heather 15 and get 15% off of any tickets because we want to support our community and show our gratitude for you supporting the community you're already a part of, whether you're there or not.
Thank you very much for that. That's wonderful. All
Yeah.
right. Well, till next time, thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in today and being with us. May you find joy, flow, and adventure on your journey. And if you got something from it, please like, share, and subscribe and or comment. It means a lot. Thank you.